and welcome once again to 12 Steps to Poker Heaven, the series that allows you to become a better poker player. I'm Carmel Thomas, and with me today I have the one and only poker master, Mr. Grub Smith.
Hey there, Carmel.
How are you today?
I'm happy as a clam.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us again today.
My pleasure.
Now, as we all know, over the last few years, poker has absolutely exploded. It's played worldwide in pubs, in clubs, in back rooms and in front rooms as well. In this series, we cover the rules of poker, the art of bluffing as well. And in last episode, we covered heads-up play.
Yeah, that's a very important part of the game. Hopefully, if you watch the show, you're going to be a winning poker player, in which case you're going to find yourself playing a lot of heads-up. That's when you get to the end of a tournament and it's just you against one other person for the title.
Well, today is the battle of the sciences. Let's find out exactly what that means.
That's right, Carmel. We're going to begin with step 9, the psychology of poker. Poker's a mental game. You really do have to get inside your opponent's head to work out what he's thinking and to know what he thinks you're thinking. Sounds complicated, but it is crucial. We'll also have a little section on game theory. That's a very useful skill if you're playing someone who you think is better at poker than you are. Then we'll move on to step 10, the mathematics of poker. Essentially, this is like learning to be a bookmaker, working out whether you're getting the right odds to call or to raise or to bet. Vital if you're going to make money.
So, where exactly does psychology come in when playing poker?
Well, it's not a question of being laid out on a couch and looking at Rorschach blots. But poker is a game which does reveal your character. If you're a courageous person, you'll play aggressively, you won't be bullied. If you're a weak and timid person in your real life, you'll probably play poker in exactly the same way. And you'll let yourself be pushed around. And watching your opponents and learning exactly which psychological profile they fit into. And remember, it can change from day to day and from situation to situation. Somebody can become angry and play more aggressively. So you have to be observant all the time. But once you've got them taped, then you can exploit that knowledge and get chips off them.
That's really interesting, Grub, but how do you stop your opponents from using the same trick on you?
You make a good point, Carmel. Obviously, you don't want to be easily read. You don't want your opponents to have an accurate psychological profile of the sort of person you are. So what you do is use smoke and mirrors. You use tactics to unsettle them so that they can't pin you down like a butterfly on a board. Sometimes you'll play a hand really weakly, so they'll think this guy can be picked on. But that's just what's called advertising. Sometimes, again, you might play a hand really badly and actually show the rubbish cards you were chasing a draw with. You don't want it to be a very expensive hand, but just enough for people to get a mental picture of you as someone who's a bit loose, someone who's a chaser, someone who's, frankly, a bit of a fish, by which we mean in poker, of course, an idiot. Having laid the trap, having put the big tempting piece of cheese in the rat trap, you can then play the next hand or the next few hands very, very sensibly. And when you do bet, they're going to think, easy pickings. But nothing could be further from the truth because, of course, you've moved your psychological profile and now you're ready to snap the trap shut.
What type of psychological devices can you use to get into your opponent's head?
Well, they usually involve talking. Now, the first one is to ask people questions. You're looking across at a player and you can say to him, tell me what you've got. Now, he's not going to tell you what his cards are, but it will. He'll think, well, hang on. And then if you say, I bet you've got a pair of jacks or whatever, he might look at his cards and go, and you'll see fear in his eyes if you've guessed it right. That's one good way of unsettling someone. The next one is to talk a lot, because when people are at a poker table, they're making complex mathematical and psychological decisions. They're thinking about what's happened in the hand, they're working out the pot odds, all the things we're going to learn about today. And if you're yapping away in their ear like a little lapdog, yap, they can't think straight. And that, of course, is going to unsettle them. Similarly, on the internet, you can type stuff into the chat box and they'll look away from their cards and start reading what you've written, and suddenly their time's running out. These little things can give you a tiny edge. The third one, and perhaps the hardest to do, because you might get punched in the face, is to be very aggressive and to be rude to people. There's an American player called Mike Matusow, also another one, very famous player called Phil Hellmuth, who used this to put other players on what we call tilt. They'll sit there insulting the way they play. They'll say, you played that hand so badly, you are lucky, or no wonder you're losing, or if you call this, I'm going to beat you. Again, it's a very aggressive type of poker player, and you probably wouldn't want to have a drink with these guys or sit next to them on a long train journey. But very effectively, they put their opponents on what we call tilt. And tilt is when you get so frustrated or angry as a poker player that you forget the correct way of playing, and you're just playing on raw emotion. Now, it feels great. You get a surge of emotion rushing through you. but it's not good for your card playing, where you should be as cold and calculating as possible. And what generally happens to players on tilt is that they lose all their chips in a hurry.
Let's have a look at an example of this from the World Speed Poker Open with Tony G.
Well, I mentioned Mike Madassau and Phil Hellmuth, but the crown prince of the trash talker is this guy on the right, Tony G. He really is a pretty nasty person to sit next to at a poker table. He's always in your ear, always criticising you. We're joining the game here. He has raised 3 hands in a row, scared his opponents off, and then been bragging at them that it's easy money, really trying to wind them up. Now the action comes round to Tony. He's got pocket kings. This is where the trap has been set. He knows he's been goading people. He knows now that when he does bet, they won't think he's got anything.
Jack, 3, 4, check. 20.
Call.
He says he's all in. He's a chip leader he can afford to lose, but it's going to be expensive because Tony G now says, well, actually, this time I was telling you the truth. And what he's basically doing is reaping the harvest of all that winding up he did, all that criticism. He angered Sunbow into making a loose all-in call with the ace-9.
I've set you up a lot of times, but you can always hit one.
And he's smiling now. He knows he's drawing pretty thin. He'd need another 9 or an ace on the river, very few outs. And Tony G, well, now he really can start enjoying himself, and you can guarantee that the next time he plays with Sunbow, he'll be in his ear all the time about how he played this hand badly and how Tony G got half his chips. Here we've got a confrontation between 2 of Britain's best players, Dave the Devilfish Elliott and Mark Mr Cool Goodwin. There is Mark sitting down in the dark suit. Marcel Lusk from Holland will not get involved with the 8-2.
I'm going to have to raise the informed guy's blind.
Raised to 12,000 total.
But I got chips to play you now, baby.
8,000 more.
And Mark Goodwin decides to call with a 5-6.
Is it wise to defend your big blind with such a small hand?
Well, 5-6 isn't a great hand. You've got connecting cards, but he's playing the player. He knows that the Devilfish on the button will be coming in with almost any 2 cards, so he's trying to see a flop. Well, as it is, this flop has hit the Devilfish. He's made 2 pairs, 7s and 3s. Check. Mark checks to him.
Don't do it. All in.
20,000. All in.
Oh, that got ya.
Oh, really? I got a hand.
Oh, don't you love it when it comes like that?
Can you put 20 in and see what the change is? I got a hand.
Have you? Oh my God, you might call.
It's another 66.
And there we are. That's the power of the check raise. He figured that the Devilfish couldn't have had a 3 because he wouldn't have bet out. He'd have slow played it. So the psychology there was, it doesn't matter what cards you've got. If I go all over the top, I know you haven't got a 3 and you've got to assume that I've got one. Mark himself is making what we call a semi-bluff. He's got a straight draw. A 4 would give him a straight. But at the moment, he is way behind, as you can see from those stats.
I've got chip leader if I win this. Yeah, because I'm going to bully then.
You should have been walking out the door. You're lucky bastard.
Stay.
Open the door for him.
We saw that Devilfish's heart rate was very low.
Well, the Devilfish is a cool customer, no mistake, and he's been in this situation 1,000 times. The strength of that all-in is the strongest move in poker. It's called a check raise. Mark checked, let the Devilfish bet, and then he snapped the trap down.
I got a 7, bro.
Now, sometimes the trap can be an illusion, as it was in this case. Mark doesn't really have anything at all, apart from a draw. But because the move is so strong, the Devilfish will have to read it for power. His own hand isn't strong enough, and Mark's going to get free money with the worst hand. Trying to look as calm as possible, smiling away.
Unfortunately. 7 good. You slow play a pair of 10s or something?
I'm not that clever.
Oh, you'd have had to raise me with a pair of 10s.
I had no idea on chip.
How much more?
66.
Think he's talking Devilfish off the hand?
Well, the Devilfish is desperately trying to get some information out of him, but Mark is giving nothing away. And there is no way, I'm afraid, the Devilfish is going to call this. It's a good battle of wills here. The Devilfish suspects something is up, but the bet is so strong from Mark Goodwin. We're seeing, you talk about how psychological a game poker is. You can see the mental strain that the Devilfish, who, remember, is one of our most experienced poker players, is going through there. He was really put through the ringer there by Mark Goodwin.
know what's making me fold is the fact that you said I got a few chips I can play now, like you probably slow played a big pyramid.
Me and my big mouth.
Oh, baby!
Shows the bluff. Now that is a fantastic piece of advertising.
Now, Grub, game theory is another extension of psychology in poker. Will you explain that to us?
Yes, well, you've got to think in the old days, poker was played by cowboys, and they tended to rely on their burliness and their bravery to win poker games. But then, when it became a bit more respectable, you sort of got the university professors and the smart kids getting involved in poker. And then they developed something called game theory. This was also used in the Cold War to map out possible confrontations against the Russians. It's used in economics as well to work out the best possible way of predicting how things will happen. In poker terms, it's a way of giving yourself an edge against a player you consider to be better than you, or at least using the best possible strategy against you. What you do is you randomise the situation. You take away his ability to use psychology against you. Let's say you and I were having a coin-tossing competition, and you thought, well, I'm better at reading Grub, and I can predict the patterns he's going to bet. I know him as a person. He'll probably say heads 3 times in a row, then tails 3 times in a row. If you were to say, right, because I'm stronger than you, I'm going to offer you better odds. Every time I win, I get £1. But every time you win Grub, you get £1 and a penny. So I'll think, it's a 50-50 proposition. She's offering me better than 50-50 odds. I'll take this. You're secretly thinking, well, in the long term, because I'm better at reading Grub, I'll actually win money. My defence against that is to randomise my decisions. Now, how I would do that is by tossing another coin and just calling whatever that coin came down with. So I'm taking myself out of it, and you're trying to compete psychologically against an inanimate object, the other coin, so you can't win. In poker terms, if you're playing against a better player, he'll notice when you're bluffing. He'll be able to read you more. So what you would do is randomise your bluffing. You'll say, well, I will only bluff with this draw if I see the King of Spades come down, or the King of Spades, the 2 of Hearts and the Jack of Diamonds. If I see those cards come down, I'll bluff. If I don't, I won't. Well, there's no way he knows which cards are making you bluff.
Yeah.
So he can't use his skill against you. You've taken away one piece of his armoury and you've levelled the playing field just a little.
Well, thank you, Grub. Well, join us after the break when we'll be looking at how you can use mathematics to work out how to play a hand.